Yes, Proverbs 26. So as always, we'll recap that before we move on to 27. So as snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. If you give honor to a fool, it doesn't really make sense. We tend, as a society or as a people, to not really like foolish people, unless they're like comedians or something, which is a little bit different, because sometimes you have to have a little bit of sense about you to be funny about certain things. As the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. So if you ever get curses upon yourself, and yes, you can get curses upon yourself, not necessarily a curse where there's demons coming at you, but a curse where you can't ever just get this one thing right. Where everywhere you turn, there's this one thing that's holding you back or down. That would necessarily be considered a curse. But it's there for a reason. This doesn't say that you're just going to get it just because. It always says, as the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. There's a reason it's there. You got to figure it out. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. So what do we mean here with answer not a fool according to his folly? Somebody comes at you and they're silly and they're talking about it kind of stupid. You don't answer them back, kind of humoring their stupidity for it. You know, you kind of let them know, and lest thou be also like him, but answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. So if someone's like, look at this $1 million I got, and it's like the fool's gold, the chocolate candy or whatever, and you're like, yeah, you're going to be so rich. He's going to be like, yeah, woohoo, and go off, and you didn't help anybody, he didn't help anybody. That was a bad example, but it is a true example. It's the thing that's good for it. He that sendeth the message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet, and drinketh damage. The legs of the lame are not equal, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. As he that bindeth a stone in a sling, so is he that giveth honor to a fool. So what does it mean, he that sendeth the message by hand of a fool cutteth off the feet? The example I used was, if you ever seen Little Rascals, a lot of y'all seen Little Rascals, the movie, when he's writing the note, but he's saying that it's saying something else, but what he's writing is really the letter, and then he gives it to the two silly friends to go take to her, and they get gum and everything all stuck in the note. So like, don't worry, I remember it. And they give the completely wrong message that destroyed it all in the first place. That's kind of what it's saying here. He that sendeth the message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet. See, back then you couldn't text this message. You couldn't, really mail it in a lot of senses. You had to send it with somebody to go take to these places. And if you couldn't trust that somebody, it caused a lot of problems. And you would always be worrying at night, I hope they get this message, I hope they get it. But you don't know if they would or not. And this is just saying, don't send people like that if you have something important to deliver. As a thorn goeth up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. The great God that formed all things both rewardeth the fool and rewardeth transgressors. So a thorn goeth into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. Everybody knows what a parable is, right? What's a parable?
Wise saying.
Kind of like a wise saying. It's what Jesus taught. He taught in parables. Examples of things meaning a greater meaning. So, not calling, George Bush a fool or anything, but when he was saying the one saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me. Anyway, you can't get fooled again, is what he said. Like, just kind of messed up the parable there. So, kind of what I thought of, is what I thought of when I read this. As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him. So, there's been a lot of times, even in my life and a lot of our lives, I'm sure, where we've stopped doing something, it's gotten better and better. We've stopped doing it, it's gotten better and better. And then for some reason we go right back to the beginning and start doing that one thing again. Whether it be smoking, drinking, anything. We go right back to it. This is the example, a dog returned to his own vomit. It's used in the New Testament as well. But seeing thou a man wise in his own conceit, there is more hope of a fool than of him. So Thomas A. Kempis said, every man naturally desires knowledge. You want to know things. But what good is knowledge without the fear of God? Indeed, a humble rustic who serves God is better than a proud intellectual who neglects his soul to study the course of the stars. You see that a lot nowadays. They think only silly people or the ignorant or the unlearned are still Christians because they can't figure things out on their own. But me, I'm an intellectual. I study, space, and I'm a fan of Tesla. And, I look at all these other things. Like, bro, you're a manager at McDonald's. I probably wouldn't be going down that route with my personality if I were you. But there's those people. It's just the persona they adapt nowadays to. There's like a hierarchy of intelligence, whether they have anything to prove it by or not. So, a slothful man saith, there is a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets. Why would a slothful man say there's a lion in the streets?
Give an excuse not to go to work.
So he doesn't have to go do anything. He's scared of getting killed. Our lion in the streets has come out about 2 years ago, and a lot of Christians just love it. Like, oh, there's a lion now. We're good. We don't have to feel bad about not going to church anymore. We don't have to feel bad about the things we do because, there's a lion at the church. You can't go there. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful upon his bed. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth. Doesn't even want to feed himself, it's saying. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. Wiser in his own conceit of the sluggard. What would that mean? They just said there was a lion in the street. All lazy people want to say that there's a reason. All fat people want to say that there's a reason. All sickly people, all people with the problem always go to a reason. Even us, even everybody in here. We have a reason, or that we tell ourselves is a reason for the bad stuff we know we shouldn't be doing. I drink a whole lot of coffee. I would say, well, I wake up at 4:50 in the morning and I get tired. Doesn't mean I have to drink that much. I drink a whole bunch of it all day. I'm kind of like addicted to it. Some of us might drink Diet Mountain Dews a whole lot. And say, well, I quit everything else. This is the one thing that I can still do. Even though I do way too much of it. It's bad for me. I wonder who that would be. Same thing with other sugary drinks and stuff. Some people spend a lot of money on them when they shouldn't, but they always have their excuses for it. Well, the sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. Even though 7 people come and have a perfect reason on why they should stop doing it, and they know, they're going to pretend they're wiser, or like, well, I know, but this. I know, but that. There's a reason they still do that. That's all of us. Find what you're wiser in your own conceit in, and then really reflect on that. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. As a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am not I in sport? So this one's 2, but they're kind of on the same page here. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife that belongs not to him is like one that taketh the dog by the ears. We got most of the dogs now are pets, pet dogs and stuff. But what if your neighbor has a scary dog and then you just go and you just grab it by the ears? Grab it and pull it. What's going to happen?
You're going to get bit.
It's going to get mad and it's going to bite you. And even though you were just walking right beside the dog was just chilling, minding its own business, you're the one that poked it. Poked the bear, grabbed the dog by the ears, same thing. That's what it's meaning here. So if there's problems and it's not your problem, don't go out making it your problem. Mind your business is what that one's saying. As a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is a man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am not I in sport? I've done this a whole lot too. Where you go and you mess with your friends, and every now and then you take the joke a little too far, and they'll either get hurt or they'll get mad, and you'll be like, dude, I was just kidding, or I was just messing with you. Am I not in sport? Well, this is the one that say if you're playing a dangerous game, you cast firebrands, arrows, and death. So it's okay to love and cut up with your neighbor and everything, but sometimes you got to pay attention as to how far you're taking it, because the joking around can lead to a lot of problems. Where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. As coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. They add flame to the fire, literally in this sense, whether by wood or coal. Some people just love drama, love being around the issues. So this is saying here, where no wood is, the fire goeth out. If you cut that person out or cut it off, you just don't tell them the drama anymore, magically a lot of the drama will go away because you don't have that one person stoking the fire a lot. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down in the innermost parts of the belly. And even the animal kingdom does it. It's just part of us, part of what we like to do. We like to be nosy and know things and see what we can do about it. But a lot of that should die out at high school. It looks really sad when you see like older people, my age and up, going around tattletaling, doing silly, I don't know what you call it, drama games with people, and I'm like, thought that this isn't high school. We say that all the time. This ain't high school. You're not in high school anymore. This is what it's saying there. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with a silver dross. It's a good example of this. You take something of no value or very little value, and then you deck it out and say that, oh, it is very valuable. So what am I saying? If you got somebody that lives in a shack, but they, for some reason, drive like a Lamborghini, you're like, you probably should have met in the middle there somewhere. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like that. They don't really know what they are, but they kind of dress up the bad parts of them or make up with it with someplace else. So you don't see the deceit. You don't see the bad in that. He hateth and dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, how many of you have ever knew somebody that they were a liar? You knew they were trouble in the first place. You even had dealings with them before. And they'll come up to you and then they'll start talking sweet to you. Well, that's a nice shirt you got on, Renee. How's James been? How's everything going? You're like, what do you want? You ever been one of those persons like, yeah, I don't know. I know what you're doing. I know what you're saying. Same thing with this. For there are 7 abominations in his heart. Whose hate is covered by deceit, his wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. If you send something out, be ready, because it's going to be coming back to you. A lying tongue hateth those that are afflicted by it, and a flattering mouth worketh ruin. Alright, Proverbs 26. We'll move on. This one's a little bit simpler and easier to follow. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. How many of us say that? Tomorrow I'm going to get this. Well, be careful saying that, because you don't know what could happen between now and tomorrow. Let another man praise thee, and not thine own mouth. A stranger, and not thine own lips. You don't have to get up and brag about yourself all the time to get the point across. Else everybody's going to know, well, if you're the only one that's saying that, you're probably lying, or you're the only one that believes that about yourself. So don't pat yourself on the back too much. If you want the praise, let it be from other people. Do stuff to help other people so they can't help but to say it about you. A stone is heavy and the sand weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than them both. So what is this? What does it mean by a fool's wrath? Think if there was a judge, a really smart, wise judge, fair, Christian even, we'll say, and somebody gets caught stealing a car, pretty serious offense. But you go to this judge, him being wise, he's like, well, you didn't do it at gunpoint, you tried to do it at night, you only did it because you really needed to get to this place because you heard your mom was sick, and so you had no other way to get there, and you just in your mind, your actions, you was like, I just got to get a car quick, and that was the path you took. So I'm going to be a lot lenient and more lighter on your sentence, because there's a lot of different factors at play here. That's a wise judge. You punish accordingly to it. He still gets punished, but had kind of decent reasons. Now, I say for those exact same reasons, he goes to a judge that's corrupt, he's paid off, he's silly, sits, smokes cigars, just drinks all the time and all of that. He gets up there and you're like, yeah, okay, I did steal the car, but, here was my reason. I didn't want anybody to get hurt. I just had to get up here. My mom was sick. I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. And the judge is like, nope, no exceptions for anybody. Bringing the hammer down. Life in prison. Very kind of a foolish thing to do. So a fool's wrath is heavier than them both, because they don't really know what's enough. They don't really know when to stop or what punishment does fit the crime. You see it a lot with like angry kings back in the day. He's like, nope, kill everybody. I don't feel like dealing with it. A fool's wrath. So wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? This puts envy as more dangerous than wrath. So with everybody falling under, some people can only do so much wrath. If you only have the means, if I weigh 120 pounds soaking wet and can't shoot a gun and, I'm not really a violent person, my wrath can't go very far. What am I going to be able to do to a lot of people? But you can envy, and anybody can steal things. Anybody can go want to be other stuff and act accordingly unto that. So this is putting envy as even more dangerous than wrath and anger. Open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. So open rebuke. You drink too much kombucha. Open rebuke. Right? Who was I talking to? You don't know? All of you did. But that is better than secret love. Why? Because something can be done about that. If I admire some person or some pastor or some figure, sports player, whoever it may be, but I never tell them and they never know it, oh well, what came of it? Nothing. But so even rebuke that is open is better than secret love or a secret admirer for that. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. So if your friend says something to you like, dude, you do this too much, you gotta stop. Or dude, stop saying that. You're gonna be weird and scare everybody away and stuff. That's a wound of a friend. They tell you that for a reason, because they are your friend. But the kisses of an enemy, like, oh, you can do whatever you want. Everything you're doing is perfect. Right on alley. You're doing the best job ever. You're going to think you're doing the best job ever, and you're going to keep going down that bad path till eventually it comes back. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have done what this guy said, but he was the yes man. Everybody likes a yes man, so. Like this guy up here says, Bob, you're great, just not at this. Definitely not at this. He's telling him not good at his job. And the mom's kicking the baby off, telling her to fly. Sometimes you need a little bit of tough love. The full soul loatheth the honeycomb, but the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. How many of you have ever been hungry before? Like really hungry? And you ate something that normally you don't eat just because it was there and you were really, really hungry. So that's kind of what it's saying here. If your soul is hungry, it'll want anything. It'll bite onto anything. It'll eat anything just because it's hungry and say, oh, it is sweet. Normally I would never eat this, but this is the best raw deer liver I've ever eaten, because I was out in the woods starving to death at 4, and what would never be good or even thought about good before now is. And that's how you can have infiltration into yourself. Some people can come in and they will see, oh, this person has a need. This person really wants something with that. They'll find ways to fill your soul, whether it be with the TV shows, music, or something else. They'll give you something to fill that little bit of void, and you'll call it sweet, even though you know it's not. What's sweet or cool about a song about killing other people? What's cool or sweet about songs about breaking hearts of 1 million girls and going around being a Mac Daddy? And yet, we've all listened to them and burned them up on our CD players and radios and all of that. I know what kind of awful rap you kids listen to nowadays. Thought it was bad in my day. It's worse now. Rock and roll with your AC/DCs and all the other people talking about just different things, elevators and whatnot. What's cool about any of that when you break it down and looking? Nothing. But because you had a hungry soul, every bitter thing was sweet. Myself included to that. We've all fallen victim to that. So while we're our souls hungry, that falls on the churches. We're the one that's supposed to give you what you need for your soul to be full. Sure, steak and potatoes or, chicken and salad and vegetables might not be the best thing, the sweetest thing on your tongue, but it's going to fill you up. It's what gets you full to where now you're like, I don't want any pie because I'm already super full with the things that are good for you. It's one of those verses that has a lot more meaning than what it implies. If you can just easily glance past it. As a bird that wandereth from her nest, so is a man that wandereth from his place. Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart, so doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. Thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not. Neither go into thy brother's house in the day of thy calamity. For better is a neighbor that is near than a brother that is far off. My son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him that reproacheth me. So that's a long verse there. Verse 10. Thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not, neither go into thy brother's house in the day of calamity. What's calamity? Yeah, bad stuff, just disaster, so to speak. For better is a neighbor that is near than a brother far off. So, with this one here, let's say your house is on fire, and your brother lives in Kingsport. Your house is on fire. Do you get in your car and go ask your brother for help? Why not? Because he's in Kingsport. Your house is going to be burned down for you over there. But will you go to your neighbor? Do you call the local fire department and say, my house is on fire. Help me put it out. Your friends are going to come over and be like, oh, okay, well, what do we do? Get buckets, get hoses, get water. So in the day of thy calamity, it is better for a neighbor that is near than a brother far off. So keep those close around you happy, keeping good standing with them, because they're the ones that's going to be able to help you the most. My son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer them that reproach me. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. You got to stay vigilant in this game. There are a lot of attacks coming at us from, again, movies, music industries, people at work, politics. Everything's going to come start attacking the Christian and the Christian values. A prudent man foreseeth the evil. We know that all that's coming. So you hideth yourself. This isn't like a shameful cowardice kind of hiding, running away and putting under. You're simply going to avoid it. Don't look at it. Keep going around the other way. But the simple pass on and are punished. They're like, that's no danger there. Just cross the wooden bridge that hasn't been crossed in 20 years. Like, no, you should probably check it. I'm going to go walk down and come back around a little bit because I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to keep going and passing on. Be prudent and not simple. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger and take a pledge of him for a strange woman. Here we go. Here's another one. He that blesseth his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. What do you guys think? He that blesseth his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. What about blessing your friend as a curse? Why would it be a curse to bless your friend?
Because he's sleepy and he don't want to be bothered yet.
No.
The way others treat you for talking good about your friend.
Kind of. You could see it like that. But what about the way your friend treats you for the way you treat him? He that blesseth his friend with a what? A loud voice. And when? First thing in the morning, early, it shall be counted a curse to him. This is where brown nosing comes from. Kissing up comes from. This is the old school, Old Testament Bible way of saying that. If someone comes up, blessed your friend with a loud voice. Early in the morning you wake up. Oh, friend, you're so awesome and amazing. I'm glad I get to spend this whole day with you. You're so awesome and cool. And the guy's like, I know he just wants to come in because I just got a new game, or I got all this new food that he likes to come in. He's kissing up to me. Or he can promote me, so the guy comes early in the morning with a loud voice praising me in front of everybody because he wants something. He's kissing up. That is unbiblical and will get you a curse from that. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. Whosoever hideth her hide the wind, and the ointment of his right hand which bewrayeth itself. So, the continual drip. I've tried to find this, even the last time it mentioned Proverbs. Do you ever remember, I know some of you will, the old cartoon, I think it was Donald Duck, was trying to sleep in the bed, and it started raining, and there was just a drip, kept hitting him, and he would patch it, and then in cartoon fashion, it would like go to another spot and drip. He'd patch it, he'd go to another spot and drip. And then he'd put buckets everywhere, and then the bucket started playing music from the drips, and he was like just trying to sleep the whole time. But I can't find that cartoon anywhere. But that's kind of what I would imagine it would be like. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. Whoso keepeth the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof, so he that waiteth on his master shall be honored. And this one's a pretty important one right here. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. You ever heard it said, like, careful who your friends are? Or careful who you pick with your friends? You can even take it a step further, and it's like, oh, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. Like, oh, careful, some might be successful off of making other friends that they can pull success from. So, but it's careful who your friends are. If you want to get better at, your Bible studying, if you want to get better at your walk through life with God and Jesus, probably not a good idea to go make friends with, devil worshippers or those that are out doing a lot of bad stuff. Don't not be friends with them. Don't not do things like that with them, but surround yourself with other people that have a like passion with you. They're also studying the Bible a lot. They're also preachers, teachers, and things like that. And they'll help you. Sometimes they'll tell you things like, oh, I've never actually seen it that way. And then you can look at it together. But be careful also, and don't surround yourself with an echo chamber. That's what it is. People that are always say the exact same thing as you always, so that, oh, of course we're right, because we all agree on it, and everybody else is silly but us. It can also have negative effects. Whoso keepeth the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof, so he that waiteth on his master shall be honored. If you want fruit from trees, you have to keep them healthy. You have to keep them watered, guarded, pruned, and all of that. But if you do that, then at the time of the figs, you'll get those figs. You'll get to eat them. As water in the face answereth to face, so the heart of man to man. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. So, this is talking about a reflection. They didn't really have mirrors back then. But as in water, face answereth to face. Kind of should be a comma there, but as in water, face answereth to face. So the heart of man to man. When you're talking to somebody or when you're at their face, do you ever just stop and look in the mirror? You're just like, this is Tyler. This is the Tyler that other people see. This is Ezra. Ezra's saying, yeah, he does it all the time. Like, this is Sean. Just take a minute to reflect and look at yourself. If you were meeting yourself, what would you think? If you were meeting yourself, what could you do better? If you were your friend, what would you want yourself to say to yourself? And all this other thing. So the heart of man to man. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. Big one. Like, if you look at yourself and you're like, you could be a lot better. That's good until a certain point where your eyes are never going to be satisfied. If you keep looking at yourself and peering, well, I should be this, I want that, then you fall right into that envy trap that we talked about earlier, which is even worse than wrath and anger. So it's careful, because you're not going to be full. As the finding pot for silver and the furnace for gold, so is a man to his praise. It is good to praise people when they need it. It is good to be praised when it's acceptable for that, because it's a finding pot. You get rid of the bad stuff when someone's like, yeah, you did good, but a little bit of this, but everything was awesome. Now they're getting refined. They know what to do and what not to do, what they're getting praised for. Though thou shouldest bray a fool in a mortar among wheat with a pestle, yet will not his foolishness depart from him. So finding part to a wise man, when you give him praise, he figures out what gets praised and he gets better in that. A fool, you can grind and mortar and just grind and grind, trying to teach him, and yet his foolishness will not depart from him. This one's actually a cool mortar and wheat pestle down there. It's not just a grinding with a little hammer, but they actually get the thing, put the spindle in it. You put all that wheat in a circle and spin a stone, and it just grinds it against the coarse stone. People weren't stupid all throughout history, even back then. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that to make it. Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds. We get into farming a little bit. For riches are not forever, and doth the crown endure to every generation. Every generation. The hay appeareth, and the tender grass showeth itself, and the herbs of the mountains are gathered. The lambs are for thy clothing, and the goats are the price of the field. And thou shalt have goat's milk enough for thy food, for the food of thy household, and for the maintenance for thy maidens. And that was it. I should have thought there was one more there. I guess I made it one slide. But it's just saying that the farm's important. Keep paying attention. Know the state of your flocks, because that's what's going to keep you going throughout the generations. Like the new grass. We become the hay that gets cut and put up for the old, so that the new can grow and keep all the new generations fed. And that's it.
Very good.